We just got another big XRP event announced, which is going to be happening in 2026. And this got announced from Wave of Innovation, which is the host of this event as well, which is XRP Australia. This is going to be taking place in Sydney on February 27th, 2026. And I'm actually very excited about this. I think that this is going to be a huge event, especially considering the fact that it is all centered around XRP and the XRPL. And if we're looking at some of the stats behind this event, there's going to be a ton of big players at this event, and I'm sure that there's going to be a lot that is announced at this event as well. So I'm definitely locked in on it. I think that this is going to be great. And again, if we're thinking about some of the recent events around XRP, especially going all the way back to like Apex and things like that, there's always a lot of great discussions, a lot of great announcements and things like that announced at these events. So I'm definitely fully focused on this. And of course, this does align perfectly with, quarter one potentially being, a major time for crypto, which we've talked about and addressed in the past. But, on top of this, this is right after Ripple Swell, which I'm sure that we will get a lot of announcements from Ripple Swell as well. So definitely locked in on this. Now, outside of that, I do want to put a full, spotlight on the XRP ledger real quick, because I have been watching as the values around RWAs as well as stablecoins on the XRP ledger really start to pick up. If we're looking at the last 30 days around RWA value, this is up about 4.3%, nothing too crazy there. Stablecoins about roughly 18%, 365 million and $311 million tied back to both RWAs and stablecoins. We see here in terms of RWA 30-day transfer volume up almost 40%, 592 million, and then stablecoin 30-day transfer volume sitting at about 433, almost $434 million, up 84%. This is a very significant push to the upside, especially in just the last month alone. And if we're looking at things changing in this space around the XRP ledger, obviously ROUSD up almost 32%, Ondo up almost 33, almost 4%. Also USDC up 33%. It's not a crazy value here, obviously, because it's sitting at $7 million, but we are starting to see a lot of growth happening around the XRP ledger. And, I'm very excited about this, especially when it comes back to RWAs and stablecoins. Now, talking about that, a few things did get announced recently, which was, of course, this big one from Brale _XYZ. We have compliance handled, speed unlocked. Brale XYZ has integrated the XRP ledger to solve the biggest payment pain point: moving regulated value easily. Now, businesses can issue USD-backed stablecoins, settle in ROUSD, and use the XRP ledger's built-in authorized trust lines and compliance features all through the same API. Now, here we have the announcement from Brale. We are thrilled to share that regulated stablecoins are now live on the XRP ledger. Brale supports issuing and managing stablecoins directly on the XRP ledger, bringing compliant programmable digital dollars to one of the most proven payment networks in crypto. Through Brale, businesses can issue USD-backed stablecoins in minutes, move funds between banks and blockchains, settle using ROUSD across XRP ledger and Ethereum, one API, regulated infrastructure, global reach. The XRP ledger's built-in compliance features, including authorized trust lines, freeze controls, and credentialing, make it easy for regulated institutions to manage stablecoins responsibly and at scale. Brale plus XRP ledger plus ROUSD bring digital dollars to builders, fintechs, and enterprises everywhere. Issue, settle, and move value in one API call. Start building. And this is very bullish at a time where the XRP ledger does have 6 stablecoins currently tied back to it. I'm very excited about this. I'm also very excited about this because we know that there's been more stablecoins announced around the XRP ledger that are simply just not on the XRP ledger yet. If we're looking at the stablecoins currently on the XRP ledger, we do have a few: ROUSD, USDC, EURP, BBRL, AUDD, and then also USDB. That is 6 stablecoins currently. However, we are still waiting on a few, like, for example, USV. Back in November of 2024, we did get the announcement that Societe Generale Forge was going to launch their USV stablecoin on the XRP ledger this year. Now, they were saying quarter one. Obviously, that did not happen. But if we go over here to RippleX Dev's recent post from the 17th, it seems as though we are going to see USV launching soon, because again, they highlight EURP and then also USV in the same post. We have across Europe, projects like Schumann's EuroP and Societe Generale's USV stablecoin are bringing regulated value on chain, with the XRP ledger serving as the foundation for secure, compliant finance. So if we're thinking about this, they're highlighting that USV is still planned. So we're still waiting on that to go live on the XRP ledger. Now, this kind of reminds me back to my post that I made, and this goes all the way back to May of this year. But I was talking about a few of the stablecoins that were set to launch on the XRP ledger. Obviously, if we're going back and looking at the XRP ledger, just going off of my post, we did see a few of these go live already. Like, for example, BBRL, and then also EuroP. We're still waiting on USDB, and we're also still waiting on XSGD. Those two have yet to launch on the XRP ledger. Now, or actually, no, the USDB did launch. I apologize. So we technically are still waiting on the XSGD and then also USV. So these two are still yet to hit the ledger, which will lead to 8 stablecoins officially being on the XRP ledger. Also, a lot of people are saying, what about a yen stablecoin? Yeah, I do think that we will see a yen stablecoin at some point in time. This kind of goes back to Stellar, right? If we're thinking about Stellar, Stellar has 11 stablecoins on it currently. And, you know, we do see that there is, number one, a yen stablecoin tied back to Stellar. We also have the Australian digital dollar, which, you know, again, the XRP ledger does have that on it as well. But what's different here is that there is real MXN. This is also from Brale, by the way. Okay, so this is the Mexican peso stablecoin. Currently, there's only about $8 tied to this. But I would argue that with the recent announcement with Brale, we could be seeing a Mexican peso stablecoin tied back to the XRP ledger. Now, on top of that, we also have a Swiss franc here, a Canadian dollar as well, which, you know, these two have yet to hit the XRP ledger as well. And then we also have MZAR, which is a South African rand-backed stablecoin. You know, with all of the announcements around Africa with, you know, Ripple, I would argue that this could potentially be one that launches on the XRP ledger as well. But it's so questionable on what's going to happen next when it comes to stablecoins. But what I did say was that the revolution of the financial system is upon us, and it's happening with Ripple, XRP, and stablecoins. More so, what I was saying that in one single month, we witnessed confirmation of 4 stablecoins set to launch on the XRP ledger. This isn't mentioning the USV stablecoin from Societe Generale Forge or RLUSD. We are witnessing the $7.5 trillion per day Forex market moving on-chain in a huge way, and XRP is at the forefront because, again, XRP is at the forefront. These stablecoin moves are accelerating faster than ever before, and I think everyone needs to be aware of how important stablecoins actually are. Most are just looking at the face value of stablecoins, but they unlock trillions in value, enable use cases like cross-border payments, tokenization, institutional DeFi, and so much more. This is the first puzzle piece to fall into place that will unlock tremendous amounts of utility and flood these networks like the XRP ledger with trillions in value. It won't happen overnight, but we are watching these moves happen faster than ever before, and it's so exciting to see the shift in the crypto landscape. And yes, it is. And this also leads me to the next post here, which is from High Vibe Assets. This is, again, a very incredible insight to just show you guys how big tokenization actually is. This is from Charles Hoskinson, the creator of Cardano, also one of the architects behind Ethereum. We have $250 trillion tokenization RWAs by 2028. Check this out real quick.
There are $20 trillion of real-world assets that are waiting to enter the cryptocurrency space. There's $100 trillion of global markets that the cryptocurrency space can expand to, and cryptocurrencies will enter mainstream consumers' everyday lives, and all Fortune 500 companies will adopt them. That is the reward for cooperation. That is the reward for objectivity, and that's the reward for fairness in the rulemaking that comes forward. Every single leader in this industry has to recognize that and realize that this is a very rare moment where we get that reset. And if we act with humility and we act with unity, that reset will happen quickly, and we will be able to get a very significant package of bills passed during the next 2 years. As these conversations are ongoing, I won't comment any more on them, and we'll just wait for the transition to do its process. And I look forward to seeing the specific ethics requirements, and I look forward to seeing the other things that come to play, and also understanding what the balance is between the legislative branch and the cooperation there, and the executive branch of the United States, because it's still unclear how those two components are going to come together and how this policy is going to come together. Much more will be clear in the next 60 to 90 days, and I will be traveling to Washington, D.C. on a pretty regular basis throughout all of 2025. And as I mentioned, the sole goal of our policy office will be to make sure laws get passed that give our industry clarity and fairness.
And this is the biggest thing, right? There is so much value out there yet to touch these public networks. And yeah, he's 100% correct. We still need clarity in order for all of this to really move on chain. However, it is starting in waves. Like, for example, Vert, right? If we go back to the XRP ledger, let's refresh this real quick. Let's go down. Vert Capital is the largest player here that has tokenized value tied back to the XRP ledger, $137 million. We got an announcement from Ripple XDev. We have Vert is enhancing finance in Brazil by bringing more than $40 million in regulated credit backed by public pension receivables on the XRP ledger. Following its first tokenized fund earlier this year, Vert has now completed a second on-chain issuance using Vert Sign, a verifiable signature solution on the EVM sidechain that automates receivables and enables real-time auditability with full compliance. Brazil continues to champion a global standard combining compliance-ready blockchain infrastructure with finance. And yeah, this is a big move. We've been talking about Vert for quite some time because obviously this is a very big player that's bringing a ton of tokenized value onto the XRP ledger. And we have here a new class of tokenized credit. Vert's latest operation represents Brazil's first tokenized FIDC backed by public pension receivables, a highly diversified low-risk asset class tied to government pensions or pension payments. In Brazil, FDI or FIDCs are investment funds that bundle credit receivables into regulated financial products similar to asset-backed securities, offering investors exposure to diversified income streams. Each receivable reflects a portion of monthly pension obligations owed by the federal government to retirees, providing investors with predictable government-backed cash flows. Each receivable reflects a portion of monthly pension obligations owed by the federal government to retirees, providing investors with predictable government-backed cash flows. And again, we have the fund currently holds more than BRL, Brazilian real, 200 million, which is equivalent to $40 million in net assets, and is expected to scale to 1 billion BRL, aka $190 million, as institutional demand grows. The structure was developed with fintech partner BYX, which provides the analytical and technological backbone for managing pension-backed receivable portfolios. Together, the two firms plan to tokenize additional funds before year-end, further linking traditional credit origination with blockchain-based management and settlement. So this is definitely going to be a big one. And again, it really does signal the next wave here of money moving on chain. And this is just still the beginning of this. I really want everyone to understand exactly what's happening here. There is going to be a much larger wave. This is just the start. If we're thinking about this, right, they're talking about 1 billion BRL, which is 190 million. Well, guess what? Vert currently they have executed more than 390 structured credit deals totaling approximately 104 billion BRL issued and also 69 billion BRL under management. This is a massive player. So the fact that they are choosing the XRP ledger and they are tapped in with the XRP ledger also shows us just how significant XRP and the XRPL is and how crucial, this technology will be going forward. The XRP ledger and XRP are at the forefront of this big revolution. And again, this is just the beginning. Ondo Finance recently put out a great post talking about tokenized RWAs and how they are becoming one of crypto's biggest markets. The total market for tokenized RWAs currently sits at $30 billion, up nearly 4x in the last 2 years. To date, Ondo has tokenized over 1.8 billion. But the fact that tokenization is moving this fast should be a major signal of just how much bigger this market's going to be. Stablecoins just hit $296 billion, almost $300 billion. Tokenization hit almost $35 billion so far, up 12.79%. Public networks are up 17+% at $22 almost billion. Again, the adoption wave here is not slowing down. Regardless of the market conditions, we are going to see both stablecoins and tokenized RWAs growing significantly in value. This is just the start. If we're looking back at some of these big, releases around tokenization, tokenized value, right? We're looking at this massive wave here. This massive wave up to where we currently are sitting, that's going to look like this in a year or two, because tokenization is only accelerating. And of course, the XRP ledger is at the forefront. And $250 trillion, this is going to be a big wave. Lock in now, pay attention. Do not miss this, because this is going to be the biggest target to focus on. The XRP ledger, XRP, it's going to reap the rewards of being very early in the tokenization boom, just along with, the other public networks that are being adopted in a big way around tokenization. So with that being said, I hope that you guys enjoyed this video. If you guys did, definitely like, subscribe, turn notifications on, because I'm more free content. You guys are more than welcome to follow me on Twitter and join the free Discord in the description below. And with that being said, guys, it's been Nick. Thanks for watching. Peace out.